ESQ Andre Hot Focus, Jang Dong-hyok's direct slap at Lee Jae-myung, and Kim Min-seok's shameful silent charade at the cabinet meeting. The story begins with the resilient image of Jang Dong-hyok, representing the People Power Party, just as he was discharged from the hospital following an 8-day hunger strike. Despite not having fully recovered his health, Jang Dong-hyok did not waste a single moment, immediately launching a direct attack aimed at Lee Jae-myung via social media. This action demonstrates an ironclad political determination and signals an uncompromising confrontation, as Jang Dong-hyok instantly drilled into the most burning issue of the moment: President Trump's announcement to raise tariffs from 15% to 25% on South Korean automobiles and timber. This sudden shift from the U.S. side is not only a heavy blow to the economy, but also exposes the weakness in Lee Jae-myung's ability to respond, compelling Jang Dong-hyok to voice harsh criticism regarding the nation's leader's lack of appropriate countermeasures. The highlight of Jang Dong-hyok's criticism is the demand that Lee Jae-myung stop hiding behind his staff and instead pick up the phone to call President Trump personally to resolve the issue. These sharp words expose a sad reality. Diplomacy is not about flashy performances, but about capability and responsibility. The fact that Lee Jae-myung only knows how to push responsibility onto ministers or staff to meet U.S. counterparts, rather than stepping up personally, shows a lack of leadership mettle. The visible consequence of this bureaucratic approach is that South Korea was left completely passive, receiving no prior notice before Trump unleashed the tariff punishment. This proves a heartbreaking truth. The current administration has absolutely no real connection with the U.S. side. The situation becomes even more ridiculous when looking at the actions of Kim Min-seok, who had just returned from the U.S. with empty boasts. He proudly declared that he had established a hotline with the U.S. Vice President and even exchanged direct phone numbers. Yet, when the crisis struck, that hotline went silent, and Kim Min-seok could do nothing. Through this, we clearly see the nature of the Democratic Party administration originally stemming from movement activism. They are very skilled at propaganda and agitation, but completely hollow when facing the harsh diplomatic reality with the U.S. They are like sokbin gangjang, rice cakes that look beautiful on the outside but have absolutely no substance inside. This failure is not accidental, but the result of a series of miscalculations. Previously, they were smug about agreements that didn't need to be written down, but the result is that South Korea still suffers a 25% tariff. The root cause lies in the fact that South Korea committed to investing or paying the U.S. about $20 billion annually or monthly, but failed to deliver, citing the excuse that it had not yet been ratified by the National Assembly. It is this breach of promise that angered Trump, leading him to use the tariff card as punishment because, in his eyes, Lee Jae-myung is putting on a show and deceiving him. Jang Dong-hyok analyzed very keenly that Trump is someone who never answers the phone of a promise breaker. Perhaps Lee Jae-myung tried to contact him in desperation, but was rejected. If that call had been successful, they certainly would have broadcast it everywhere to polish their image. Looking at Kim Min-seok, we see the image of an immature and incompetent prime minister. He boasted about the hotline number, but in reality, his U.S. trip only brought back stern warnings regarding the release of Pastor Son Hyun-bong and issues concerning Kupang. Instead of acknowledging the truth, he painted it as a series of fruitful discussions. Meanwhile, back at home, Lee Jae-myung blames the National Assembly for the delay in ratifying investment agreements. Even though the Democratic Party holds over 180 seats and can unilaterally pass any law they want, such as special acts or broadcasting laws, using the National Assembly as a human shield for their breach of faith with the U.S. is just a clumsy play to cover up incompetence and the consequence is that the people must bear the brunt of the 25% tariff bomb. Jang Dong-hayek called all these excuses nothing more than a play and asserted that Lee Jae-myung is completely useless on the diplomatic front. The climax of this tragicomedy occurred at the cabinet meeting on January 27th, where Kim Min-seok suffered an unprecedented humiliation. Just hours before the meeting, he was enthusiastically rambling on the YouTube channel 3 Pro TV, bragging about his historic visit to the U.S. and his close relationship with Vice President Vance. He proudly recounted how the U.S. Vice President gave him a direct phone number and promised cooperation on nuclear energy and submarines. But ironically, at dawn that same day, Trump released the tariff announcement, smashing all the illusions Kim Min-seok had just built. At the cabinet meeting, because he had to leave early to attend Lee Hae-chan's funeral, Kim Min-seok handed over control to Deputy Prime Minister for Economy Gu Yeon-chil. In an unintentional but devastating moment, Gu Yeon-chil invited Kim Min-seok to say a few words about the achievements of his U.S. trip before leaving. This is standard procedure for an official to show off accomplishments. But in the context of the bad news from Trump that had just broken, the invitation was like a bucket of cold water. Kim Min-seok's reaction at that moment was truly pathetic as he frantically waved his hands, refusing to speak even before Gu Yeon-chil had finished his sentence. That silence and the fearful hand-waving betrayed all the lies and the impotence of the hotline he was once so proud of. The entire diplomatic myth that Kim Min-seok and Lee Jae-myung had painstakingly painted collapsed after a single status update from Trump, turning them into liars in the eyes of the public. Based on what has transpired, I believe the pressure will weigh increasingly heavy on the shoulders of Lee Jae-myung and Kim Min-seok. Trump, with his uncompromising and pragmatic personality, will not stop at the 25% tariff if South Korea does not make a move to pay up or make specific investments as promised. Lee Jae-myung may be forced to use his majority in the National Assembly to hastily pass payments to the U.S. to suit the situation, but this action will contradict his previous tough rhetoric, creating a wave of outrage among voters due to the inconsistency. As for Kim Min-seok, after the shameful silent charade at the cabinet meeting, his position will wobble violently. The opposition, and especially Jang Dong-hayek, will not let this opportunity slip to demand his resignation or at least require him to appear before the National Assembly to explain this disastrous diplomatic failure. We may witness an escalating political crisis as the economy is directly hit by tariffs, causing the people to lose patience with the administration's empty promises. This story is a powerful testament to the price paid for diplomacy based on performance and deceit rather than capability and integrity. Jang Dong-hayek stripped Lee Jae-myung bare, while Kim Min-seok turned himself into a laughingstock with hollow boasts that were buried by brutal reality. The South Korean people are bearing the heavy economic consequences of the leadership's misguided political calculations. What do you think about Kim Min-seok's hand-waving refusal to speak? And will Lee Jae-myung dare to call Trump directly as Jang Dong-hayek challenged? Leave your opinions in the comments below so we can discuss. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the ESQ Andre channel for the sharpest and hottest political analysis.